Hey, what's going on, guys? Josh from Trail Built, and overlanding has just been blowing up over the last few years, and there is a ton, literally a ton of all different kinds of vehicles that you could go out there and get for overlanding, something that's four-wheel drive, something that's halfway capable, something that's going to get you to where you're going reliably. So in today's video, we're going to break down some of the differences between this Toyota 4Runner that you see behind me here and this Jeep Wrangler. Those are probably two of the most common overland rigs that we see, at least up here in Northeast Wisconsin. So we're going to give you guys a breakdown on the differences between the two. So if you are looking for an overland vehicle, hopefully this video will give you somewhat of a good idea on what to go with. So with all of that said, if you guys are looking for a set of wheels, set of tires, or package wheels and tires together, a suspension lift, or any accessories for your off-road rig, truck, SUV, off-road buggy, whatever you got, make sure and check out our website. It's trailbuiltoffroad.com. All right, guys, make sure and smash that subscribe button so that way you guys can hold on to the ride with us. You ready to go check these things out? Let's go. All right, guys, so we're gonna start with Zach's 2018. Now this is a Jeep Wrangler JLU, so it's a mid 2018 and newer JLU Unlimited. Obviously you guys can probably see already that Zach does have some modifications to it. He's got a 4-inch super lift kit that he got from trailbuiltoffroad.com. He's got the Fab 4's off-road bumper up front, and then a couple of other little odds and ends along the way. So we're gonna start with Zach's Jeep, give you some advantages of what the Jeeps have, and then we're gonna move over to, now this is Cam's, this is a 2014 Toyota 4Runner. This is the SR5 version, which is like your, basically like your basic trim level. So not leather or moonroof or some of those other creature comforts. So starting with Zach's Wrangler. Now first things first, Wranglers have a reputation of being capable off-road vehicles. We've all heard of them before. We all know they're capable. There is a few different advantages as far as four-wheel drive capability over the 4Runners, and one of the biggest ones is even without a 4-inch lift, even stock, the Jeep does have a little bit more approach angle. So if you're coming up to those obstacles, you will be able to clear those obstacles a little bit better, whereas on the 4Runners, the first thing you're going to run into is that front bumper, that lower valiance piece on the front bumper, which if you know much about Toyota 4Runner bumpers, they're not cheap. They're a little bit more expensive compared to Jeep bumpers. There's a lot of aftermarket support. They're not as expensive, so that could run into some issues if you plan on doing a little bit more aggressive off-roading. Another thing too with the Jeeps is obviously they have the solid front axle. Now solid front axle does have its advantages and its disadvantages compared to the Toyota 4Runner's independent front suspension. One of them being is with a solid axle, you do get a little bit more reliability and a little bit more strength as well. The solid axle does tend to flex better because when you're pivoting, depending on where your suspension is moving, your front axle being solid acts as a pivot point, and it's more capable of keeping your tires planted on the ground, which keeping your tires planted on the ground obviously allows you more traction, because if you have that tire spinning up in the air and it's not grabbing anything, you're not going to have any traction at that tire. So independent front suspension is more likely to lift a tire off the ground, creating a loss of traction situation. So a little bit more advantageous as far as off-roading performance to have that solid front axle. Now that we know some of the performance key differentiators between the two with the solid axle and independent front suspension, how about road handling characteristics? Well, with a solid front axle, you're going to feel a little bit more side-to-side movement. You're going to feel a little bit more of the road with the front solid axle compared to that independent front suspension, because obviously each tire is moving differently, absorbing the bumps differently compared to the front solid suspension. As far as the rear axles, both of them will have the solid rear axles, so still pretty cool that even with a SUV, like the modern day SUVs, like my Highlander for example, has 4-wheel independent suspension, that the 4Runner still maintains that solid rear axle. So now obviously with the Wranglers, you can upgrade to a Rubicon, or if you're looking for a Rubicon model, if you want those locking front and rear axle and the 4-to-1 transfer case, you can get that in the Rubicon models on the Wranglers, whereas in the 4Runners, even if it's a TRD Pro, you still only get the rear locking differential, and then I'm not even sure what the transfer case has in it, if it has a low gear or not. If you're comparing the two, you're looking at a Wrangler, you're looking at an Unlimited, or you're looking at a 4Runner. If you're looking for better ride quality, you're going to lean more towards the 4Runner. If you're looking for a little bit more off-road performance, you'd be leaning towards the Wrangler. So getting up under the hood, now guys, we know this is a 2018 and newer JLU. This is a 2014 Toyota 4Runner, so we're not going to be apples to apples exactly, but this one, the 3.6 liter, is going to be running about 285 horsepower, 265 foot-pounds of torque. And I just looked up the specs on Google for newer 4Runner, and they're running about 270 horsepower and 278 foot-pounds of torque. So a little bit of variance there. So if you are looking for something for just a little bit more power, yeah, maybe the Jeep, but the 4Runner is pretty close anyways. The other thing is too is you can change your power by re-gearing the axles if you needed to, and it's going to be a little bit less money to do it on the Wranglers because of the solid differentials, the solid axles I should say. A little bit easier to access, easier to change the gears in than like the 4Runner. So, but that's getting into a whole nother subject. If you're looking for fuel economy, the Jeep's going to have a little bit less fuel economy than the 4Runner only because aerodynamics, but really they are about a horse apiece. If you start loading them up with gear, if you're using them for overlanding, you're going to have a bunch of extra weight in there. Fuel economy, you might as well just throw that out the window. But if you are looking for maybe just a slight advantage for fuel economy, then the 4Runner is going to be the way to go. So one of the biggest noticeable differences obviously between the two is 4Runner, you're going to have a hard shell here. There's no convertible. You do have an option to get a moonroof, but the top does not come off. Now, where that's advantageous in the overlanding world is the fact that it's a lot easier to mount a rooftop tent too, because you already have the integrated roof rack. So basically you buy the tent, you mount it up here, you're good to go, climb the ladder, go to bed, right? Well, not so much for the Jeep Wrangler. Now, if you're considering the Jeep Wrangler and you want to put a rooftop tent on the Jeep Wrangler, even with the hardtop, you are going to have to purchase some kind of roof rack support system because they don't come with it from the factory, and they can be quite pricey. However, we do have some really good TerraFlex ones on our website that you can check out just by clicking the link somewhere above me here. So something to keep in mind as a consideration, it's going to cost a little bit extra coin to mount a rooftop tent to the top of your Jeep Wrangler. However, you can take the top off. Unlike the 4Runner, you can't take the top off, so cruising around in the summertime, you can get that nice summer breeze coming through, or even a nice fall day like it is today in Wisconsin. Nice to have that top off. And then there is a ton of aftermarket support for the Jeep Wranglers. So all different kinds of accessories for, soft top, hard top, slant backs, bed coverings, all different kinds of accessories, and you can find them right on our website, trailbuiltoffroad.com. Now moving back over to the 4Runner, and then moving on to the back of the 4Runner. Now they have the hatch tailgate that basically just lifts up as one big piece, which can be really nice because if you're setting up a table or you have some gear in here or anything like that and the weather's kind of crappy, you can at least get yourself under cover with this tailgate as it lifts up like that. So that is kind of nice. The other thing is too is with the tailgate, the back window does roll down, and that feature is super nice because if you do end up setting up your 4Runner as your camper and you have a bed back there, you can roll down the back window, get some venting, or for the dogs or cat if you're that kind of a weird person, but for your dogs you can open the back window and get some ventilation for them. So kind of a nice advantage there. One, to protect you from the weather, two, to get some extra ventilation with that rear window rolling down. So onto the Jeep. Having the spare tire on the back of the tailgate can be a disadvantage in the fact that it could be a little obtrusive if you're on the trail and you might need the extra space turning around or whatever it may be. It could get hit on a tree or anything like that, or even hooking up the hitch. It's kind of a little bit peculiar getting underneath that. But it is up out of the way, so it's not hanging down underneath your vehicle, which is kind of nice as well because it gives you a little extra ground clearance. The 4Runner, they have their spare tire just right up underneath the cargo area on the bottom, so you got to take out a wrench and basically lower it down to the ground if you get a flat tire. So a little easier to take off the spare tire on the Jeep. So a little something, minor detail, but could be something that makes a difference. The other thing is too is unlike the 4Runner, the Wranglers have this swing open gate on them. So if you are looking for a little extra protection against the weather, rain, snow, sleet, whatever it may be, you're not going to have that with the Wrangler. Now, if the hardtop was on here, it does have obviously the glass hatch that pops open and you can kind of duck underneath it, but they do make all different kinds of canopies that mount on top of the Wranglers or even the 4Runners that swing out. So if you're looking for that extra protection, or like I do, I just bring a little spare tent along, and that way if it is crappy out, I got something to go underneath. So with the cargo area, now it is kind of nice too, because even with the 4Runner, the hatch pops up, this tailgate swings open, so you do have a nice seat here if there isn't a bunch of gear in the way. So even at a sporting event, something like that, you still have an area to sit down at. And the other nice thing is too with the swing out tailgate is obviously it's easy access. If you have, you know, your gear here, maybe cooking stuff, cooking supplies, anything like that, you still have a little area here that you can use for that. Or you could also buy one of those tables that mount to the back of the tailgate and it folds up, which is kind of a nice feature too, because then you can have your kitchen area here, maybe your cooking area, and then, you know, have all your supplies and everything over here. So that is kind of a nice advantage with the Wranglers compared to the 4Runner, because you're not going to want to mount a table to a hatch that lifts up. Everything's just going to fall off, so it doesn't make any sense. All right, so we're car camping, right? We're overlanding. Having a bunch of room is a big deal because you have a lot of gear. You have all your cooking supplies, all your kitchen supplies, all your fire starting supplies, all of your food, your coolers, maybe your Domatec refrigerator, I don't know, whatever you got, but you probably have a whole bunch of stuff because you're going on an adventure and you're going camping. So let's see how much difference there really is in cargo space between the Wrangler and the 4Runner. Now we've already put the seats down flat so you guys can kind of see how it is in here. Right off the bat, one of the Wrangler's kind of the same way, but one of the things I see is that if you plan on sleeping in the back of your 4Runner, like my Highlander, for example, I took all the back seats out, made a storage and made a bunch of storage underneath there. I made a platform so I can sleep right in the back of the Highlander, and it's a flat deck back there. But with this, with the 4Runner, you can see there's a little bit of a little slant up going over the back seat, so it probably wouldn't be that comfortable to sleep on. Otherwise, you would have to have some sort of built-up platform back here so you'd have a nice flat area to sleep on. But how about room? Let's take some measurements here because I'm curious how much room there really is. One of the things I noticed right away that we'll show you guys in a second with the Wrangler is the fact that these seat bottoms, they just flip up towards the front seats, which means that you are going to be limited on how much room you actually have, because even if you move or slide the front seats forward, you're still going to have these seat bottoms that are going to be in the way in case you did want some extra maybe leg room or head room while you're laying down flat in here. So with that said, we'll take a measurement here and just see how far back. I'm going right to the back of the tailgate, right up to the back of where the seats flip up here, and we're right at 70 inches or 5'10". So 5'10". And anybody taller than that is going to have a little bit of an issue if you plan on sleeping in the back of your 4Runner. So 5'10", and then as far as width, we're just going to go side to side here. We're looking at about, I'm just going to line it up for about 4'10". So if you're 5'10" or shorter, you can lay the long way. 4'10" and shorter, you can lay sideways. Or that just gives you an idea about how much cargo space there is in the back of the 4Runner. Now, let's go check out the Wrangler. Now, if you plan on getting a Wrangler, or if you're looking at the Wrangler and you do plan on sleeping in the back of the Wrangler before you get your rooftop tent or even your expedition trailer, whatever it is you might get, there is a little bit more room, at least headroom, or depending on which way you lay, maybe more leg room, because if you have your head up by the tailgate here, the big advantage with the Jeep as far as sleeping in the back is the fact that you can still move your seats up, your front seats up, and not have some sort of protrusion here getting in the way. So you would actually have a little bit extra space. But in fairness, let's see what kind of room we have with the seat. Now this seat is all the way back, and we're looking at 62 inches or 5'2" to the back of the seat to the tailgate. So there is just a little bit less room for cargo carrying capacity than the 4Runner. Now, if we look at our width, we're going to have about 5'4" inches. So a little bit more width than the 4Runner. So you do lose a little bit of length with the Wrangler, but you gain a little bit of width with the 4Runner. All right then guys, with the front seat all the way up, you're gonna have about 6 feet. So from 5'10" to 6 feet. So really, well, 2 extra inches you'll have of additional headroom. So you do get a little bit more sleeping area if you plan on sleeping in the back of your vehicle. And with the 4Runner, the Wrangler also has the same sort of issue where there is a ramp up to the top of the back seats here. So you would still have to build or create some sort of cushion here or platform if you did want to lay flat across the back in the cargo area here. So hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea on the differences in the cargo capacity, or even if you're planning on sleeping in the back of your rig, what kind of room you would have. Now, let's wrap this up. So now we've been through the physical characteristic differences of both the 4Runner and the Jeep Wrangler. And again, guys, we're not exactly apples to apples. We got a 2014 SR5 Toyota 4Runner, and then we have a 2018 JLU Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. So not exactly apples to apples, but I know a lot of you are interested in overlanding. You're looking for that 4-wheel drive capable vehicle. Both of these vehicles are going to do exactly what you need them to do. Both of them are going to have 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low. Both of them are going to be very capable off-road. Both of them are going to have very similar cargo carrying capacity. Both of them have very similar horsepower and torque ratings. Both of them probably don't really get that good a fuel economy, but you're not going out on an adventure hoping you're gonna save a bunch of gas, unless you're that one guy with the Prius who's built his Prius into some kind of camper contraption. I don't know. Probably not the majority of you though. And then there's the one thing that we really haven't talked a lot about, and that's price. There's a lot of different vehicles out there and a lot of different price ranges, a lot of different budgets. So really, that might be the main contributing factor to what vehicle you end up buying. So this is just one of the videos that we're going to show you guys today. We just happen to have a 4Runner and we happen to have a Jeep Wrangler, and 2 of those are very popular vehicles for overlanding. So if you guys do have any suggestions on what vehicles you would like to see, or even any questions on the 2 vehicles that we went through with you guys today, just let us know in the comments below. All right guys, well that is all that we have for you today. Don't forget, if you are looking for a wheel and tire package, a suspension kit for your SUV, truck, off-road buggy, whatever it may be, or even some accessories, make sure and check out our website at trailbuiltoffroad.com. Other than that, we appreciate all of you for watching. I'm Josh from Trailbuilt, and we'll see you guys back again shortly.